And welcome back to another episode of the Elite Health and Wellness Show. My name's Clay, co-owner of Elite Health Online, and today we have special guest Makaylah Rivera.
Hi, Clay.
From Texas Star Pharmacy. If you haven't seen Makaylah on previous episodes, you've really missed out, but you're in for a treat today because we're going to be talking about all things weight loss. So Makaylah, I know you're fresh back off a trip from Las Vegas.
Yes. I did just go to the A4M conference out in Las Vegas. It was at the Venetian. Beautiful place to stay.
Terrible place to be.
Right? Yes, but it was great. A4M, for those of you who don't know, is the Academy for Anti-Aging Medicine. For our patients who do know, but you're a little bummed you missed out, we covered a lot of things ranging from, hormones to, up-and-coming peptides, a lot about NAD,
right.
Mostly about, how to extend your lifespan, but also as we've talked about in our previous podcasts, that all these new medicines and therapies are coming out, and patients just don't have to live with the results of aging anymore. NAD being one of the bigger topics that we spoke about.
I was going to ask you, what was the biggest, I know today we're talking about weight loss, but what was the biggest kind of hot topic there at this recent conference?
The biggest hot topic was probably NAD.
Okay.
Being, arguably, people have been saying it's one of the biggest findings and recoveries since, Fleming discovered penicillin.
Yeah.
Because of the increasing number of human trials. And we'll talk about this later, NMN.
Yeah. You've talked about, if you haven't guys missed it, we had Makaylah on to talk about NAD before, NAD. Yes. So check that podcast out. And then we're going to do a podcast in the future here coming up about NMN.
Yes.
So, that's the hot topic there.
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of growth in the number of human research studies. Because those of us that rely on peptides and a lot of these things end up resorting to animal studies or human studies, but they're not in an intense array of numbers. So in the last 2 years, and in 2020 alone, we had a great increase in number of human studies that allowed us to really see, more anecdotal evidence that also has, quantitative data that can be analyzed and used to more accurately tell all of our viewers about the benefits of these different therapies.
That's so awesome. We'll look forward to talking about these upcoming products. But today we're talking about, again, all things weight loss. And we've had previous episodes specifically on Semaglutide, the FDA-approved weight loss medication that we're offering at Elite Health Online. If you have watched TV at all, if you spend any time watching commercials where Big Pharma is pushing their medications, you might have heard of it as Ozempic or WeGovy. Those are the commercial names. We refer to it as Semaglutide. But today, Makaylah, if you would just kind of kick us off, let's start with, and if you're out there listening, stay with us because we're going to start with what is the best product for someone who needs to lose 50 pounds plus?
Yeah.
They really are what we consider obese. And we're going to talk a little bit about what they transition to. So as you get closer to your ideal weight, or as semaglutide starts to lose its sensitivity, I want you to kind of speak to the audience about what does that transition look like? Someone who went to our store and looked at everything that Elite Health Online has to offer would see a wide array of weight loss treatments. What's right? What's best for me? How do I transition? Because 50 is a lot to lose. And then, folks, what we're going to move to after that is Makaylah's going to talk about what about those people that need to lose 10 to 15? What's the right product? How do we transition? And then what do we do to maintain once we get there? Because as Tim Ferriss talks about, diet is probably 80% of most results that people get, right? Exercise is another, 10, but there is a component for medication and drugs.
Yes.
And so that's what we're focused on today. And most people will not achieve the full range of what they can do without that final 5%, 10% of what drugs can do. So Kick us off. Let's talk to the audience first. 50 pounds plus, maybe 30 pounds, really need to get that off. Where do we start?
Well, the obesity, problem in America really is an epidemic. And whether that's attributed to genetics or, overeating, which is a serious problem, a lack of general exercise, losing 50 pounds and being obese with multiple one or more comorbidities can be very, very daunting. And a lot of the times, especially, knowing there are so many therapies out there, people don't know where to start.
Yep.
Semaglutide, obviously, like you said, brand name Ozempic, Wegovy has amazing results anecdotally and also in studies. And when you have, this large amount of weight to lose, it's usually where most people will go, just because you do see in literature and, as people, so much more common. I bet people have friends who've been on it. You probably know someone who's been on it.
Yeah, we get a ton of those where it's referrals, right? They're like, oh my God, what'd you do? And that's how they come to us.
Yeah. Semaglutide is probably that number one. Okay. And granted, everyone's bodies are different. Some people get amazing results. You'll lose that 50 pounds over, a 16-week protocol. Yep. Some people might take a little bit longer. Some people, it might just not be the right medication for you, which is totally okay. There's not a end-all be-all for weight loss medication, which is why it's great that, Elite Health Online has multiple different, therapies.
A lot of people tolerate semaglutide very, very well.
Yes, surprisingly.
Others have to fight through some of the initial, might not feel the greatest and might have a little bit of upset GI, but most people are making it through. Some just simply can't, and that's where we have alternatives, and we'll talk about those today as well.
Well, you grit and bear it sometimes. Things.
I mean, let's be honest, losing 50 pounds isn't fun, period.
No, but it's better than getting gastric bypass or having to undergo another form of surgery, whereas you can do a once-weekly injection and still get amazing results, and sometimes a little bit of nausea and an upset stomach is very little to
So for those that don't know, high level, because we got to work through a lot of products today, those that don't know, Semaglutide, Ozempic, WeGovy. How's it going to work? Just high level. What's it going to do for the patient? How's it going to allow them to lose weight?
Sure. So it's a glucagon-like peptide. It's an insulin mimetic. So it will cause you to secrete insulin when your blood sugar is high. The end result really is to reduce your cravings, decrease the amount that you're driven to eat. And, one thing that we really, really want to reinforce is that semaglutide works great in helping you manage your portions and realizing, maybe I don't need 3 cups of coffee with all the sugar in it, and taking that you learned during whether it's your 16, 12-week protocol and incorporating that into the rest of your lifestyle so that you retain that weight loss. But like you said in the very beginning, curbs your appetite, helps, maintain your blood sugar, which is why it was, of course, initially a drug for diabetic patients.
When you talk about curbing appetite, just for the audience, I'll just share a personal experience and what patients tell us. You just stay full. So all of a sudden you're eating a normal sized meal and you realize, I cannot finish this. Then your desire for food 3 to 4 hours later, typically those of us that would exercise and those people trying to lose 50 are going to be walking and exercising. You're ravenous, right? Hours later, you're just starving. Yeah. You just still feel full. And mealtime passes by and you don't even think about food. I don't know if it works on the mental aspects of food or if it's just the slowdown of the gastric emptying. Is there anything that it does in the brain to shut off a desire for food, or is it all slowing of gastric emptying?
So you don't have you have GLP-1 receptors all over your body. And meanwhile, it doesn't act in the same way like a stimulant might. It doesn't act on your pituitary in the way that psychologically it would.
Right.
However, the gut-brain axis is increasingly, becoming more well-studied, and the relationship between how your stomach interacts with your brain. So delaying GI emptying, which is a product of glucagon, will relay that sort of signals to the brain. So meanwhile, it might not be acting on the brain in the way like an appetite suppressant would. There is like a secondary
a little bit of a lack of desire for it. The same. Excellent. So semaglutide, Wegovy, Ozempic, awesome and amazing for those that really need to lose some weight. Even someone maybe we're writing it at our clinic for people who don't have 50 pounds to lose. They have 25 or 15 and they're struggling and they're getting there really quick.
Yes.
And then they're maintaining it. So let's talk about now where we step 2 from there. So let's say a person loses a big percentage of that. You're on semaglutide for the 16 to 24 weeks, and it's now time to cycle off because you're going to lose sensitivity. You guys offer at Texas Star and through us a couple of different options. We have Thermogenics. We have low-dose Naltrexone. We have skinny shots.
More nutraceutical.
Kind of walk us through what's that transition.
So like Clay, like you said, anytime that you are giving your body something like semaglutide or any, pharmacological agent, you do build up a tolerance to that. And so as you hit that, 16, 24 week margin, we want you to cycle off, give your body the opportunity to acclimate and reinstitute those things that you learned while on your therapy, including,
What is what does my calorie count need to look like?
what should my portion sizes really look like? And meanwhile, I know it can be daunting for patients to come off this drug that, helped them reach their goals and feel more comfortable with themselves, which is where these new therapies come in. The first that you mentioned, Thermogenic, is a phentermine-containing compound. And so people are historically familiar with phentermine. Being an appetite suppressant as it is a stimulant, it does act directly on the brain to curb your appetite. The one that we offer through Elite is far more refined.
Right. Caffeine, chromium, green tea, phentermine.
Aspirin.
And aspirin, that's right.
Yeah, so a bunch of thermogenic products and blood sugar regulators to really just help you in that end goal of maintaining your goal weight by
So a lot of people will remember there was something called an ECA stack back in the day. Some of the folks that are really into the gym and that sort of thing may remember that ECA stack. And it was ephedra, caffeine, aspirin. That perfect combination synergistically works together to really create a weight loss and increased body temperature, right?
Yes.
Core body temperature, increasing, suppressing appetite, and then giving you lots of energy.
Yeah.
So those are the three big benefits.
Yes.
But not near the curbing of the appetite the same as semaglutide.
Not
So
in a
dial
very
back.
different sort of. So people who have taken phentermine before, because it's very well known. People have taken phentermine before. You're probably familiar with the effects. It does make you feel a little jitter. It is a stimulant and a controlled medication. Semaglutide, on the alternative, is not a controlled medication and it is not a stimulant. So while it does curb your appetite, it will not feel the same way to those who may have been on an extended phentermine protocol. Yeah. But it does bring us back. You cannot be on phentermine for very long times. But in that stack that we did mention, it does help the thermogenic burn your visceral fat that you might not be able to through exercise, maintain your blood sugar and your energy levels, which of course are all vital to that whole approach of weight loss.
But a great alternative to move to if you hadn't quite gotten to your ideal body weight, switching to the thermogenic, not getting completely, eliminating appetite suppressant completely, getting something that helps you while we bridge until we get back on a second round of semaglutide.
Yes.
Great alternative.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. All right, where does low-dose naltrexone come in?
So we could talk about low-dose naltrexone for days, if not definitely a whole podcast. Sure. It has an array of benefits ranging from, like neuroactive, effects, but weight loss.
Anti-inflammatory, immune response, everything.
Yes. So in the weight loss world, low-dose naltrexone is a part of an FDA-approved drug. So your providers should be, I know your providers are very well-versed in these therapies. This would be Contrave, which would be, it does contain phentermine. Contrave does, along with Wellbutrin or bupropion and naltrexone. We will compound it, I believe, without phentermine. Is that
No,
true?
ours does not have phentermine.
Yes, without
it's just
phentermine.
Straight naltrexone, which allows us to mix it with... You can take it alongside the thermogenic.
With the thermogenic.
Right.
So while naltrexone has a bunch of amazing benefits, including, some appetite suppression, particularly great at helping regulate your weight with your hypothalamus, consider it almost like a clock, almost. It helps your body kind of realize what your new baseline is. You might have patients who gain weight and then they lose it.
Right.
Or they lose a bunch of weight and then they gain it right away. Well, your body is very, very intelligent. And it recognizes where it's supposed to be at. Naltrexone is a drug that can help you kind of give yourself a new baseline, whether it's a higher or a lower weight. Arguably, one of the most important aspects of naltrexone is sleep.
Oh, yeah. That was my experience.
Yeah. Well,
it just kind of shuts it's not like an Ambien, which I've never taken an Ambien, but kind of knocks you out, or a Benadryl. It's kind of just just kind of shuts your brain off.
Yes. Well, and
if you're thinking about work and things like that, it just kind of shuts it off.
Go to sleep. And people who are well versed in hormones, and if you haven't seen our previous videos on, testosterone or other hormone therapies, please go back and watch them. There's a very comprehensive approach to everything, but particularly with naltrexone and weight loss, lack of sleep will produce insulin resistance, which then will increase your cortisol levels, which the end result would be weight gain. Taking naltrexone and increasing your sleep, encouraging melatonin, which is a hormone, in conjunction with regulating all of your other hormones, is arguably one of the most beneficial aspects of taking this low-dose naltrexone.
Yep.
Especially in your patients who might have hypothyroidism.
Now, what I noticed, and tell me if this isn't true, there was a change in cravings for kind of the salty, sweet kind of thing that just helped a little bit in the evening when I don't really know that you're even hungry or more bored.
Yes.
And sitting down to turn on Netflix for a little bit before bed and kind of want to go grab a couple of chips. They're probably not going to ruin my day, but it certainly doesn't help when you're trying to maintain or lose weight. It just seemed to kind of take that craving away. Just didn't quite think about it as much.
It's like you said, we historically will eat because we're bored. And, we really need to eat because our body needs it. What we put into our body is fuel. So meanwhile, watching what you eat and using these other therapies to help regulate how much, low-dose naltrexone will help regulate your blood sugar so that later in the day you don't feel like you have to eat chips or sweets. Not every dinner has to have a dessert after it. Which everyone seems to, every time you go out to eat, they're like, anything for dessert? Yeah. Well, no.
Especially while you're in Vegas, right?
Yeah, especially when we're in Vegas, they're like, oh, well, do you want, a cake? I'm like, well, no, I just ate a whole pasta. I don't need a cake too. Right. But, low-dose naltrexone will make it like it's a no question. Everyone might consider it a little bit like, oh, do I want a cake? Sounds nice.
But there's the other thing with naltrexone, touch on this if you will. I think that this is true, so confirm this, but there's not any real side effects from it. It's actually could help with inflammation, autoimmune, it's just all around. I don't really see in the research I've done a reason why every prescriber doesn't just make this almost like a supplement that you're on. It's like your omegas and your vitamin D. This is just kind of try it out, see if it works for you. There's not any harm in it. There's no negatives.
I think the only side effect that I regularly hear anecdotally is vivid dreams. Okay. Well, you're going to go to sleep. I'll put you to sleep. Not in the way that,
Does that mean that you're in a deeper sleep, though? That you're in a REM sleep?
It's almost like for our female patients who have taken progesterone capsules, it does make you a little drowsy. It's why any naltrexone containing compound you usually want to take at night. Yeah. Will make you a little drowsy, deeper sleep, but you end up waking up feeling much more well-rested.
That doesn't seem like a negative to me much, but
right?
I certainly did notice that. A little more relaxed, brain, I'd describe it as my brain was shut off. Instead of just having to grab the phone and get to work, it just kind of allowed me to kind of shut down and that's awesome.
No, it's becoming increasingly popular across many verticals. Like you said, inflammation, Hashimoto's thyroiditis, even things like autism and allergies, but particularly in weight loss, seeing as how it's a part of an FDA-approved product called Contrave. It's already been, well known in literature, and I believe it started way back in addiction. Yeah. For the FDA-approved product.
At high doses.
At high doses in addiction. Lower doses discovered in the treatment of AIDS and HIV when they discovered this has an immunity effect. This is an immune booster. And then thus began more and more studies through the low-dose naltrexone trust that allowed people to see this has so many applications. How else can we help patients with it?
So this is really where Elite Health Online is different from a lot of providers in that we allow people to be this. We talked about this a lot. The CEO of their own health. Try some of these things and see. It's not a negative thing to experiment with drugs and medications. You're trying to see how well you respond. If it gives you a phenomenal response to sleep and you sleep better and it's allowing you to curb some cravings, stay on it. What's the alternative? Go back to 10 pounds extra, which is worse for you, that sort of thing. And so we've got those now. Where do HCG come into this? A lot of people come to us and say, I heard HCG, I hear the HCG diet, and will HCG help me lose weight? And that one's one that's kind of way down the list for me. Not going to help you drop 50 pounds, but it's going to aid you. Can you talk to us a little bit about HCG and weight loss?
Sure. HCG, is not approved for the treatment of weight loss. And the HCG diet does bring a lot of controversy. If you eat 500 calories a day, you're you'll probably lose some weight. It's safe
Yeah.
to say.
Yeah.
And then because of, the rise in the fad diet, as it's, talked about, and the FDA's interference, we're not allowed to compound it in the United States. Does that mean you can't get it? Absolutely not. Alternatively, for things like testicular atrophy or hypogonadism, there are alternatives to that, and commercially produced HCG products that are provided. When it comes to weight loss, it's a toss-up. There are a lot of it's anecdotal. There are some patients who believe that whether it's peptide therapies that increase the secretion of gonadotropins or it's HCG, there are people who really feel much better. It does increase, your energy and your vitality.
Get to the gym.
Yeah, you feel better going to work out and then increasing weight loss. Does it have a huge influence on, IGF or is it a thermogenic? No. A lot of it would come down to, anecdotally. We cannot compound it, so there's kind of a gray area between what we're allowed to recommend. But it is, one thing that a lot of providers were very aware of and wanted to prescribe for their patients seeking weight loss goals.
Okay. So I'm looking here at our menu online at elitehealthonline.com. And one of the products that is, I think, greatly underutilized is kind of what we call our Elite Stack Pro weight loss stack. And this one combines low-dose naltrexone and the LipoSlim.
Oh, yes.
So you just talked about naltrexone, but combining that with LipoSlim. Talk to us about LipoSlim and then how do those work together?
Yeah. So LipoSlim, lipotropic skinny shot, whatever you call it.
Everyone knows it as skinny shot probably.
Skinny shot.
That sounds, people hear that and they're like, sign me up.
Skinny shot, I got it, yes. Some people will call it, they're like skinny shot. Skinny shot is not semaglutide. Skinny shot would be a combination of various vitamins. These would be 1, 2, 3, 6, 12. The very, very popular amino acids for metabolism. That is MIC, methionine, and acetylcholine. The Texas Star, lipotropic shot will also contain levocarnitine, vitamin C, and then the end goal of all of these vitamins really is to obviously increase your metabolism, lipid movement and transportation, and encouragement of your body to produce energy at a greater level, which is why one of the big side effects not big, but one of the more prominent side effects people will say after they get their first skinny shot is, hey, I was a little tired after. Like, it makes sense because these vitamins, while you're getting them in a greater dose than you normally would, they're encouraging your body to work at a higher rate of metabolism than it normally would, thus contributing to the end goal of weight loss and, an increased motivation to reach your weight loss goals through exercise and physical activity. So using Skinny Shot is a great way to supplement yourself with vitamins, minerals, amino acids that can
You're just giving your body the
contribute.
very best of what it needs to operate at a high functioning. But this isn't going to drop 50 pounds. This is for someone like yourself or someone else is trying to maintain, wants to give their body the optimal nutrition it needs to be at peak performance.
Be at peak performance. Okay. Absolutely. That's a great way to put it. It will help. Like you said, this is not for your patients who might have a BMI of 26 to 28. Is that to say that they can't use it?
It would optimize their body the same, but it's not going to shut down the appetite.
No, it's not an appetite suppressant. You do certainly feel those effects. It does make you feel, more energized.
Right.
People are very familiar with B12. Yeah. There's a sufficient amount of B12.
We don't write for people will call us and they're 50 pounds overweight, 25. I heard about your Skinny Shot. And I'm like, well, hold on. This, you're going to be disappointed if you're expecting this to make that gain. The semaglutide, it's almost universal. They will drop the weight.
Yes.
Let's shift gears a little bit if we can. Let's go to now the person who is 10 to 15 pounds overweight.
Yeah.
Certainly not obese. Probably not ideal for their health. I mean, we know that if we can get to our ideal body weight, that's probably the number one thing. There was recently, Peter Attia was talking about this on a podcast with Joe Rogan. And there is nothing that replaces exercise. He talks about this. You get I think it was a 5-fold increase in lifespan, okay, by simply being at your ideal body weight and being able to perform at what they defined as VO2 max, like top cardiovascular shape. So if you're 60, you would be able to perform at the top 2 to 3% of 50-year-olds. If you're 50, you would be able to compete or perform at the ability of a 40-year-old in the top, 3 to 5%. It's all about cardiovascular health.
Yes.
So being an ideal body weight is the number one thing we can do. And these medications help people get there. But for that person that's 10 to 15 pounds out, cannot figure it out.
Yes.
They're already doing hormones. They're doing everything else. Where would you suggest that
I'm happy you said that. A lot of people they find themselves not being able to lose weight, and a lot of that is make sure your hormones are ready, and people will be on statin or these other things. And we're like, we would rather you make your lifestyle changes, regulate your hormones, and your diet, your exercise to make sure that, your cholesterol's normal, lower your cortisol levels, make sure you're getting enough sleep. But for your patients 10, 15 pounds overweight, their hormones are regulated. Like, I just can't take the weight off. Like, I know it can be so frustrating.
Yeah, the last 5%.
Yeah. That is where you would come into, obviously you could go on these low-dose naltrexone-based protocols, these phentermine-based protocols, but 10 to 15 pounds, most people, anyone in a wellness center who places, priority on exercise, diet, sleep, would encourage you to try probably something more nutraceutically based, a little bit more, innate with your body. Just when you come to these vitamins, Skinny Shot, like we already mentioned, and these more growing in popularity, NMN-based compounds, which will contain other thermogenics to help burn some of that visceral fat that you couldn't get rid of.
How about CJC those? Because I'm looking at one of our stacks that we offer, and it's our Elite Weight Loss Stack 2 that we call. And this one combines the LipoSlim with CJC 1295 and Naltrexone, which you just mentioned, 2 of the 3. But talk about that combination together. We know what the LipoSlim does. We just talked about that. Optimal performance, give your body the nutrition it needs. Naltrexone is going to help with some of the cravings, give your body everything it needs. CJC 1295. We've talked about this peptide before on previous podcasts, but for those that are here, all things weight loss, and they're in that category, how would CJC 1295 assist with that final, 5 to 10 pounds?
So CJC 1295, it's oftentimes compounded with ipamorelin. I always get asked about where CJC comes from. These developmental names, regardless of what peptide it is almost always related to the lab that it came from. So CJC was found in Conjichem. So I'm thinking that's where it comes from. It's a human growth hormone receptor agonist. So it will, and this is oftentimes misconstrued, you secrete HGH when you're sleeping. Taking CJC, you'll usually take it in the night, in the evening time. It does, insulin does
empty
interfere.
Stomach, 2 hours before, or right before bed, 30 minutes before bed on an empty stomach.
Yes.
2 hours, no food.
No food.
Which right there, for those folks at home, it's a very disciplined way to go. But I don't know very many people that are not at their ideal body weight who stop eating at 7 o'clock, go to bed at 10 or 8, 10. Stop eating at 8. That right there, going to bed on an empty stomach and training your body for that, that will move the needle tremendously. Absolutely. And when you buy this, I often say, CJC, I want you to get into it, does amazing things, but one of the big benefits is that people, because they're spending money on this medication, they cut their food off at 8 o'clock and go to bed at 10 or whatever. And I'm like, well, that's a large part why you're getting to your ideal body weight.
Yes.
You're going to bed on an empty stomach and training yourself to sleep that way.
And then you in turn usually eat breakfast. And, they always tell you when you're growing up, breakfast is the most important meal of the day. It genuinely is. It gives you, all of your building blocks for the day. And you want to have that energy throughout the day.
Well, you're breaking a fast.
Yes. Well, and fasting, and getting good sleep are key markers to decreasing your bioage and thus extending your lifespan. But CJC, like we were saying, human growth hormone, it increases the pulse of your human growth hormone. So you secrete human growth hormone when you're sleeping. This is why, one of the things you might readily notice after taking CJC is better sleep quality. We always want better sleep. Melatonin is a hormone, so a part of that comprehensive approach of regulating your hormones and extending your lifespan, giving yourself a better quality of life, lowering your cortisol is congruent with getting better sleep. The main goals of CJC being, leaner body mass, and, energy, vitality. Anyone who's looking for a human growth hormone receptor agonist or looking to increase those levels of, especially age-related decline, your human growth hormone levels always decrease
So
with age.
everyone knows, I mean, if maybe not everyone, but a lot of people know that HGH, human growth hormone, that's probably what most of the movie stars are taking that are define age. I mean, let's look at Sylvester Stallone and
Yes.
let's go through all the people we could name. Why are they defying age? It's probably growth hormone.
Absolutely.
But growth hormone, and we do offer it. Let's just be frank. It's not anything to sneeze at as far as the monthly cost. It's quite high.
Yes.
When I'm describing, and please tell me if I'm wrong here, but the way I break it down to the layman for CJC 1295 is growth hormone is taking exogenous growth hormone, something not from your body, but you're taking the actual hormone. Simply put, CJC is a much more affordable way to do a daily subcutaneous injection that will raise your IGF-1 levels, which is growth hormone, but do it naturally.
Yes.
You're stimulating your body to do something it did when, again, I think I said this on a previous podcast. Why can my teenagers go to bed and sleep and I cannot
10
even
hours.
wake them up?
Yeah.
Because their bodies are growing, but they're optimal levels of human growth hormone. And so that's the first thing people come back to is I'm sleeping like really, really well.
Better, yes.
And so CJC is just a really more affordable way. You're not going to get the same results as HGH because you're taking the actual hormone in pretty high volumes.
Yes.
But CJC will increase that level, give you all the benefits of leaner, faster recovery, and better sleep. Is that a correct
Yes.
layman's explanation?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And, CJC being a human growth hormone receptor hormone,
Right.
ipamorelin being a human growth hormone receptor peptide,
Right.
oftentimes, are used together.
Mhm.
Like you said, they do have that end result of better sleep, greater energy. It's often regarded as a weight loss drug.
Right. Again, it's kind of like
It's arguable.
It's kind of like the Lactoslim. It's just going to give you everything you need to be optimal.
Yes.
To then allow your body to perform the very best it can. When you're sleeping at night, right, you can either digest food or you can burn fat. I mean, people drinking before bed, that we've talked about this before. Your liver has two options: process the alcohol or process and burn body fat from the day.
Yep. And you're taking away one of those
Probably
choices.
not going to do both.
Yes.
So love it when people say, well, can I still have my wine at night? And I'm like, you can within moderate reasons, but you will not achieve your ideal weight with it. So I think CJC is awesome because it really disciplines people to, again, cut the food off, increase your IGF-1, sleep well, and give you that ideal, put you in the ideal situation to burn that last little bit.
Well, and it's an investment. When you're investing in these peptide these therapies are, they're affordable. There's still money coming out of your pocket, and because of that, we do see patients are willing to make these other very necessary, albeit sometimes minuscule modifications in their lifestyle. And while that might include a glass of wine before you go to bed, or dessert 3 times a week, once you're choosing to make this active investment in, weight management gain, extending your lifespan, regulating your hormones, sometimes it's vital for you to make that whether it's, not just a monetary, but that lifestyle investment to contribute to your overall goal, and prioritizing what's really important to you, living a little bit longer, and feeling better. It goes back to what we talked about in our past podcasts, we don't have to just live with it anymore.
Well, I think we wait for people to think about is you're not giving it up forever.
Yes.
If you can get to your ideal body weight, you can figure out, and you talked about this before, what do my portion sizes need to look like? Is one glass of wine with dinner or at bed gonna cause me? You'll have to experiment with that.
Yes.
But it's real easy when you get to the ideal body weight to then add things back and watch and see what happens.
Yeah.
And you will figure it out.
Yes.
And maybe it comes down to that glass of wine at night. You have to give something up during the day.
Well, and everybody's
and you can
different.
balance it, but if you want to be there, it's achievable. And I think a lot of the medications today we talked about really give people the best chance at success, and that's our goal.
Yeah.
These are the again, you have to do the work, you have to diet, but these will make this process much easier.
Absolutely.
Is there anything we missed today, or did we cover? Was there anything else burning on your list of all things weight loss?
I know we'll talk about NMN in a later podcast. The only thing I would say, to our viewers is it's a very personalized approach to weight loss. Sometimes you do meet with a lot of providers, or you see on whether it's social media that, one thing's the end all be all.
Yep.
it's great to have practices and organizations like Elite who give patients these alternatives, because while something might not work for you now, or it might not have worked for you in the past, speaking with a professional who's well educated and well versed in all these other alternatives can give you the option to really, be the CEO of your own health, especially your own weight. And try these other things to figure out what works for you, and transfer between therapies to make sure that you're maintaining where you want to be at.
That's awesome. Well, Makaylah, thank you for being here. As always, it's awesome to have you. Folks, thanks for tuning in today. As we depart here, take just a few seconds. There's a quick 90-second clip that really describes what Elite Health is all about, what you can expect, and what that journey from starting to become a patient to actually becoming a patient and then receiving your therapy. You can learn a little bit more there by watching this clip as we depart. We hope you join us for future podcasts, and thanks for being with us today.
You want to look and feel your best, and when you don't, it's frustrating to go to the doctor, only to have them tell you that you're just getting older, or that you're depressed, or even worse, you're told to just try harder. Specialized treatments work, but finding a knowledgeable doctor and then getting there can be a hassle. Not anymore. Our convenient telehealth clinic makes it easier than ever to talk to a doctor who understands what you need to reach your goals. Skip the waiting room, skip the drive, and book a phone consult with our knowledgeable doctors who will never ask you to come in. Plus, your labs are on us, so your doctor can be fully informed on your health. Then your doctor will create a customized plan based on your unique goals, using our comprehensive and progressive treatment options that include both basic and advanced therapies, shipped straight to your door in a couple of days. With Elite Health Online, it's all about you. Choose what works for you, your budget, and your goals. There are no hidden fees or physical visits, and you only pay for the treatment plans that you choose to purchase. Are you ready to reach your health and wellness goals? Book a free consultation today to get started. Elite Health Online is the most convenient, comprehensive, and progressive clinic anywhere. Elite Health Online. Get results.